The first 10 minutes was just getting pictures, and then after that, it's kind of, you start thinking about, okay, how is this situation going to end? How am I going to get out of this? Sarah and ID have been over here for 6 months. So a lot of them are ready to go home, and they know the way they have to go home is through Baghdad. They don't understand what it's going to cost in the way of life to get there, to get home.
What if we looked at the world as one giant farm field? In tomorrow's global food economy, every crop will grow where it grows best. And ADM can link farmers to almost any market in the world. It's a natural way to improve agricultural efficiency, make food more affordable,
Hello.
and feed a hungry world.
Can you hear me?
ADM, the nature of what's to come.
America's most popular camera series is now digital. Introducing the all-new, all-weather, all-digital Stylus. Olympus. Nothing's impossible.
Introducing new America Online 8.0. With hundreds of new features, there's never been a better time to try it.
You've got mail.
With 8.0, I can customize my email.
AOL's new parental controls I can set up for each one of my children.
Now AOL searches are faster than ever with Google.
The customer service is free and it's 24 hours a day.
Call now and get 1,025 free hours for 45 days. There's no commitment and you don't even need a credit card.
America Online has so much more.
New AOL 8.0 with hundreds of new features. There's never been a better time to try it.
I'm Darren Kagan, live in Kuwait City with a check of the news at this hour. Coalition forces unleashed Tomahawk missiles on Baghdad overnight, setting off at least 2 fires. One of the targets was, again, the Ministry of Information. Earlier to the north, coalition forces pounded a ridge near Mosul, where Iraqis are entrenched with heavy mortar and anti-aircraft artillery. To the south, Marines in Nasiriyah continue their running gun battle with Iraqi soldiers across the Euphrates River, a strategic crossing point. And just an hour ago, Central Command reported on fighting around Najaf and Samarra. They said that soldiers in the 82nd Airborne killed about 100 Iraqi, what they are calling terror squad members. In other news, the weekend saw new fighting in the war on the terror in Afghanistan. A rocket slammed into the Kabul headquarters of the multinational peacekeeping force. No one was injured, no one was caught. The attack came a day after an ambush left 2 American Special Forces soldiers dead and 1 critically injured. 2 stories for you now about one of life's necessities. Later today, British officials say they're going to have a pipeline built which links Kuwait's water supply to the Iraqi city of Qasr. That'll provide Iraqis with 600,000 gallons of water every day. At the same time, there are questions about America's water supply. Hundreds of U.S. water utilities report today to the federal government on their security measures. The U.S. says there has been no specific or credible threat to America's water supply. And if you're looking for a little escapism these days, here's some good news for you. Baseball is back. The ceremonial first pitch of the 2003 season left the hand of manager Mike Scioscia about 8:15. That was Eastern time tonight, as his World Series champion Anaheim Angels took on the Texas Rangers, formerly the team of President Bush, whose father throws out the ceremonial opening day pitch later today. That's in Cincinnati at Cincinnati's new Great American Ballpark. In tonight's game, by the way, the Rangers beat the world champion Angels 6-3. Now we toss it back to CNN's continuing coverage of the war in Iraq with Anderson Cooper. Anderson, they do actually carry the baseball scores here in the paper in Kuwait City.
Oh yeah, it's good to know. I did not know that. Darren, thanks very much. We want to go right now to Walt Rogers. We have become so used to seeing Walt with the 7th Cavalry charging through the deserts of Iraq. He is stationary right now, but let's get an update of what's going on. Walt, what's happening where you are?
Hello, Anderson. Throughout the night here, we have heard the sound of jets overhead. U.S. Air Force F-15s, U.S. Navy F-14 Tomcats. Each of those roars overhead has caused the Iraqis not far from us to stay pretty close to the city in which they've taken sanctuary. One Army captain told me a short while ago, as long as the Iraqis hear those jets overhead, they're not going to stick their heads up, they're going to go to ground. That has not stopped the Iraqis from firing some artillery shells in the direction of the 7th Cavalry out over the horizon behind me, about 2 kilometers from where I'm standing. That's about 1.5 miles out. Having said that, there have been no injuries, no casualties. Again, we have something of a standoff here. The Iraqis have taken sanctuary in 2 cities south of Baghdad. We're about 50 miles south of Baghdad. The Iraqis are inside those cities. They have, according to Army sources, positioned surface-to-air anti-aircraft missiles in there. The Air Force would like to go in and strike those, degrade those units. They can't do that because the Iraqis have taken refuge sanctuary in civilian areas. Also, the Iraqis have been firing artillery out from those positions ever since last evening. When the Iraqis place their artillery in the suburbs of the city south of Baghdad, then the Air Force strikes, and particularly the Army's multiple launch rocket systems, we've seen those go out, putting on quite a display of fireworks for us. But having said that, again, as long as the Iraqi forces take refuge in the cities, they seem to be fairly secure at this point. Anderson?
Well, I want to bring in General Clark again. General Clark, this sounds like the situation we've been talking about a lot this last hour or so. How do you deal with this kind of a situation? You have artillery in a city. Sure, you could go in with air power. You could probably knock it out, but there'd probably be a lot of civilian casualties.
Well, eventually we will have to use air power against that artillery that's in the cities, and more than that, we're going to have to put our ground troops moving forward into the cities if we're not taking out the Republican Guards by air. You're just going to have to go in there and grapple with them by the Braille method. You're going to have to go up there and grab them, and you get in the fight, and then you bring the air in. And it will be more destructive than we would like it to be, but we'll have to do the best we can with it.
You were asking, General Clark, you were asking Walter before about whether or not there are identifiable targets. Why was that a question that was important to you?
Well, because if there are identifiable targets and we can use air against it, we can take out the Republican Guard or most of the resistance and move smoothly into Baghdad. If they're hiding, using decoys in the basements of buildings and garages with their tanks, and you can't see anything, then that's when you have to have forces on the ground to spot those targets.
General Clark, feel free to ask Walt anything or talk to him as you wish.
Well, Walt, can you tell us anything about that battle going on south of you with 2nd Brigade 3ID?
Well, first, General Clark, I want to congratulate you. From afar, you're reading the military situation on the ground here precisely correctly. 7th Cavalry moves forward around these Iraqi cities. They scout the area, take up positions, and then the units of the 3rd Infantry Division, Heavy Mechanized Division, move up, and they have been following us, taking the cities which we have scouted, and where we in the 7th Cavalry, that is, literally grab the Iraqi army by the nose, and then the heavier units of the 3rd Infantry Division go in and, exactly as you say, engage them. That's happened in Al-Samawa, it's happened on Najaf, and it's happening in the cities to which I can't name now. But the battle south of us, which you're referring to, is just over the horizon. It's the 2nd Brigade of the 3rd Infantry Division. They have a topographical objective they are trying to seize at this hour. They are moving up in force, so anyone who tells you there's a pause in the fighting, at least on this front about 50 miles south of Baghdad, just is simply incorrect. There are engagements going on. We can hear the artillery going off. Again, 7th Cavalry at this point is virtually protecting the 2nd Brigade's flank. The Iraqis, again, won't come out of the cities and fight. The battle has to be carried to them, and we're in a situation where the Iraqis are daring the U.S. Army to go into the cities and fight. The Army is daring the Iraqis to come out and fight. Again, a bit of a stalemate, but again, there is shooting going on. We can hear the artillery and have heard it throughout most of the night. General Anderson?
All right, Walt, we're going to have to let you go here. Walter Rogers, thanks very much. Stay safe. Good to talk to you as always. General Clark, your final thoughts? I know you got to take off soon.
Well, I'm really encouraged by what Walter has to say, and I think that sounds like we're approaching this the right way. Really proud of the troops over there, and Walter and the other CNN reporters also. I'll tell you, Anderson, you're doing a very, very fine job. It's a real pleasure to be with you tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, it was really, it was very enjoyable as always. Your perspective is much welcome here. Thanks very much, General Wesley Clark. We'll be right back.
Because things are changing so fast, trust CNN. With more frontline reporters, experts who have been there, and the most experienced journalists. Because you need all the facts. Stay with CNN, the most trusted name in news.
CNN Tomorrow, the latest from Central Command Operations Chief Colonel Tom Bright and reporters embedded with the troops, only on Larry King Live. CNN Tomorrow, 9 Eastern.
I've got to get a new car.
I've got to get to my Lincoln Mercury dealer.
Think big at your Lincoln Mercury dealer's Think Big sales event, where you can get big incentives on every Lincoln and Mercury, including Sable, Mountaineer, the new Lincoln Aviator, and Mercury Grand Marquis with $3,500 cash back. That's $3,000 plus $500 sales event bonus cash for total customer cash back of $3,500. Think big now through March 31st at your Lincoln Mercury dealer.
Restaurants have been part of the Demas family for generations. Over the years, they perfected unique recipes from the world over. Today, they serve the area's finest steaks, seafood, pasta, and chicken. For lunch or dinner, experience a legacy of fine food and superior service. The Demas family difference. Demas's in Murfreesboro, Nashville, and Lebanon.
CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Still a lot to talk about. Our coverage continues. War creates terrible tensions, even thousands of miles away. So we wondered, what must the atmosphere be like just down the road from the fighting? For an answer to that question, we turn now to CNN's Sheila McVicker, who is in Amman, Jordan. Sheila, what are things like there?
Good morning, Anderson. Well, one of the things that we're seeing here are a large number of young, mostly young Iraqi men heading home, back down that road to Baghdad. Going home, they say, to fight, not just to fight, but to defend their country. At the bus station on the outskirts of Amman, Zuhair and his friends are getting ready to head to Baghdad. $8 buys a bus ride to the border, back to the country they left years ago. They are going, they say, to fight. The war started and we have no choice, says Zuhair. No one is forcing us, but we have to go. Every day since the war began, hundreds of mostly young Iraqi men have shown up here, ready to brave that perilous drive. Nearly 6,000 have crossed so far. It is a question, they say, of their homeland. Down at the Iraqi embassy, the staff are busy issuing thousands of new identity documents to Iraqis who thought they would not return again during the time of Saddam Hussein. Embassy staff handed out posters. But many of those who came here say they're returning to fight for Iraq, not Saddam Hussein. It is my home, he says. I'm going home to defend my country. The U.S. calls this Operation Iraqi Freedom, a war of liberation, they say, to make Iraq's people free. Commanders acknowledge the resistance has been unexpectedly fierce. One reason, perhaps, is history, a history not of liberation, but occupation. The Turks and their Ottoman Empire, the British, who believed they were bringing order and law and who paid a terrible price in Iraq when the people rose up. And there are these images, daily reminders of the ongoing occupation by Israel of Palestinian territory.
No country, no people in this world like to see military occupation on their land.
Bassam Awadallah is a Jordanian minister trying to explain why the Arab view, the Iraqi view, doesn't necessarily see liberation, but something else.
The war has been shifted in a way that it is no longer a war being fought against the Iraqi regime. It is a war that is being fought against the Iraqi homeland.
And they are fighting, they say, to defend their homes. It is not just Iraq's regime at war, but Iraq's people. Khalid, an Iraqi physiotherapist, is making plans to leave his family in Amman and return to Baghdad. America, he says, does not have right on its side. America does not have the right to occupy my country. And if America stays, says Khalid and many others, no matter how little the time, what they are thinking about is occupation and resistance. Anderson, I think that this is something that many people anywhere in the world can understand, the notion that when someone foreign comes to your country, when someone foreign comes and apparently threatens your house, however noble or good the motives may seem to be, some people will resist, and there are some people who think that that is at least part of what we are seeing in Iraq now. Anderson?
I suppose to some it may be understandable, but I think to many Americans it is also confusing to go to fight for a country. Yes, it is their homeland, but it is also a homeland that they fled often because of Saddam Hussein.
In many ways, this war is shifting. It is no longer simply war against Saddam Hussein. One reason for that shift in perspective is because of the different images people are seeing here on Arabic language television, the pictures that they're seeing in the newspapers. In American television, the American media, you are not seeing the kinds of very graphic images sometimes of children who are dead, who are wounded, of people who are really suffering. There are ways in which other images are playing out which strike at people here as wrong. And so as a result, some people at least are beginning to see that it is their country, their homes, their families who are imperiled, and not just the regime. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is more support for the regime,
right,
but it means that there are more people who think that their country is attacked and that they need to go and help.
I have two more questions for you. One, you said there's some 6,000 who have already left, largely young men. Do you know, or does anyone really know exactly what they are doing now that they are back? I mean, are they actually fighting? Are they regular army troops? Does anyone know? And the second question is, you talk about Arab television shaping the perceptions. Is it as simple as that? Is it just the television, or is so much of this seen through the lens of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? That is the lens through which they judge the current activities going on in Iraq?
You're bang on the money there. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has played a huge role in the psyche and the minds of people in this region, and it has had a hugely damaging impact on American credibility in this region. People here believe that if the U.S. administration had truly engaged with the Israelis, with the Palestinians, that they would have been able to achieve a just solution. What they see from their perspective is the United States' unwavering support for Israel and for all that Israel does. They believe that in some cases, they believe that this war is being waged in part to help make Israel more safe. But most importantly, it means that when they see American forces coming to Iraq, they see the potential for a new occupation, and they have the living daily reminders of what occupation looks like just right next door here between Israelis and Palestinians. That plays a huge part. The first question you asked, what are these young men doing when they go home to Iraq? Are they truly going to fight? Or are they simply going home to help look after their families? We can't know what the answer to that question is, but we do know that Iraq's government has laid on special buses at the border to pick up these men, to take them back into the cities and towns, and it is reasonable to assume that at least some of them are picking up weapons and now defending their country. A
fascinating piece. Sheila McVicker, thanks for sharing it with us. Thanks very much tonight. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to check in back in northern Iraq, where there has been a lot of activity over the last 36 to 48 hours. We'll be right back.
Announcing non-drowsy allergy medicine you can take right when you need it. It's Alavert. New Alavert starts dissolving the instant it touches your tongue without water. So Alavert is non-drowsy relief you can take inside, outside, in your car, wherever you are. Get prescription-strength, non-drowsy, 24-hour relief. Even Claritin can't beat. New quick-dissolving Alavert. Allergy medicine you can take right when you need it, wherever you are.
Hey, you're going to love this new Quick Rent at National Car Rental. When you get to the airport, they let you choose your own car. Whatever make and model you want.
Whatever color you want.
You can walk right past the counter. And you don't stand in any lines.
All you need is a major credit card and access to the internet. You rent online at nationalcar.com.
They ought to call it quick and easy.
Bypass the counter.
You don't have to stand in line. Choose your own car. Click, click, click on the computer.
It's all about me, Rent. Huh?
Choose the rental car company that lets you choose your own car. Quick Rent at nationalcar.com.
The very best of Fleetwood Mac.
Now, the best songs from one of the world's greatest bands on one incredible collection. The very best of Fleetwood Mac 2 CD collection features songs from 3 decades of their brilliant career. The very best of Fleetwood Mac is the ultimate collection.
CNN tomorrow. Missing since the first Gulf War. New reports say Captain Scott Spiker is still alive. Some say he's Saddam's personal insurance policy. The latest on the search, plus live reports from the front lines on American Morning with Paula Zahn. CNN tomorrow, 7 a.m. Eastern.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage. On now to northern Iraq, where the pace of the air war seems to be picking up, though the coalition presence on the ground remains somewhat thin. Jane Arraf is in Kalak. Jane?
If you can see anything, can you?
Hey, Jane, it's Anderson Cooper in Atlanta. Can you hear me? Obviously, we don't have communication yet with Jane. We'll try to set that up. She is in Kalak, where there has been, really in the last 36 to 48 hours, a lot of air activity, particularly, as you saw right before we left her, that camera zooming in along a ridge line, far on the ridge line, far past her. There have been bombardments on several of the Iraqi positions all along northern Iraq, especially around Chamchamal. Kevin Seitz has been reporting Iraqi forces have pulled back. What initially was thought was perhaps some sort of unorganized retreat seems to be more of a tactical pullback to secure their positions near some of the oil-rich cities in the north. We're going to try to reestablish contact with Jane as soon as we can. It is safe to say that the U.S. did not expect such a tough fight in southern Iraq now, something that's complicated the push to Baghdad, to say the least. We have heard quite a bit of how the strategy is shifting to deal with the threat. Jason Bellini is actually seeing that shift on the ground. He's embedded with the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit. Take a look.
The Marines we're with are hearing about the difficulty that their brethren, the fellow Marines around this country, are running into, especially in the cities. They're hearing about places like Basra and Al-Nazarif, and Marines being taken prisoner, their fellow Marines being killed. It's of great concern here. I had a chance to speak with Colonel Waldhauser. He's the commander of the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit. What he told me is that now they're going to have to react to what the enemy is doing, meaning they're going to have to go on the offensive. They're going to have to change their original game plan, the original game plan being securing the route to Baghdad, making way for coalition forces to head towards Baghdad, making that the primary objective. Now they're going to have to concentrate on spots along the way. That's now in the cards for them. Earlier, Captain Dunn, he's the commander of the platoon of the company that we're with, the Gulf Company. He spoke to his Marines, gave them a bit of the big picture about what they're facing now.
The plan going into this thing was to try to isolate these urban areas, move up, get outside of Baghdad, because we didn't want to get bogged down. We didn't want to slow things down, allowing our forces to get north. We're up there where we want to be, but we have some problems that we need to deal with. And what it comes down to, in my mind at least, is we're through around.
What that's going to mean for Marines at the very ground level, people in the infantry, is that they're going to have to make some very snap judgments, very quick decisions as they go door to door, having to discern between civilian and foe. Very difficult thing to do. They're telling us that they have the training to do it, that that's what they've been preparing themselves for, even though they're hoping that it wouldn't come to this. I'm Jason Bellini with the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit in southern Iraq.
We are going to go back to northern Iraq to our Jane Arraf, try to see if we can establish contact with her. She is near Kalak in the Kurdish-controlled territory of northern Iraq. Jane, what's the latest where you are?
Anderson, we've been hearing heavy bombing just behind us. It's an Iraqi-controlled ridge, and beyond that is Mosul, the major city of Mosul. Now, this morning, in the past hour or so, we've seen bombs and smoke rising from them 4 times over what's presumed to be a bunker up on the ridge. Very heavy bombing over the past 3 days, as there has been near the city of Kirkuk as well. And in fact, there, Iraqi forces have withdrawn, with Kurdish forces advancing forward in their wake. Now, all of this, a much more major offensive, if you will, to the north, will have to come with U.S. forces. And right now, there aren't enough of those on the ground. But they are continuing to come into the Harir Air Base. That's just near a town where we spoke to the local people about how they feel about those American soldiers.
A game of skill and chance. The point of Dama is to isolate your opponent.
The men in Harir have lots of time to play these days as they wait for the battle further south to play out. The war is going slowly, says Pirbal Rahman Hassan. We didn't expect it to be like this. We thought it might be finished in 2 or 3 days. People throughout this region thought America's overwhelming military power would mean a quick and easy victory. Apart from special forces, U.S. troops have only been in the north a few days. They've begun fanning out on patrol after parachuting into the Harir airfield just a few miles from here. They travel light, but one of the things each paratrooper dropped in with was a translation card with key phrases in phonetic Kurdish. There's a phrase there that says, "My government will repay you for your assistance." What does that mean?
Well, I think what that means is if you'll help me, I'll try and help you in return.
The Kurds are more than eager to help the U.S. to try to topple Saddam Hussein. Peshmerga Kurdish guerrillas are providing support for American soldiers. But as friendly as this territory is, it's just a few dozen miles from the Iraqi front lines. There deliberately isn't much contact between Kurdish civilians and the American soldiers. Abdullah Aziz Abdullah's house overlooks the airfield. He sees the soldiers only from a distance. The Peshmerga forbids us to talk to them, he says. He says that's because they fear Iraqi intelligence agents posing as Kurdish civilians could attack them. In town, most people catch only glimpses of the soldiers. This is the main street of Harir. The American soldiers are just down the road. So far, people here haven't seen a whole lot of them, but they say just knowing they're there makes them feel safer. Salar came to Harir from the major city of Erbil because he feared it could be a target for Iraqi attacks. He sells socks on the street here for 15 cents a pair. I haven't seen the soldiers, he says. I only see the planes, and when I see a plane, I'm a little reassured. It makes me feel a little better because Saddam can't do anything to the Kurds. It's not the tens of thousands of ground troops most Kurds were longing to see, but to people here, this scaled-down American presence, even at a distance, is reassuring. Now they're reassured, but still apprehensive at the turns this war is taking, turning out to be perhaps more complicated and more lengthy than a lot of people had bargained for. Anderson?
Yeah, you raise an interesting point. Reassured, but for how long? If large numbers of U.S. ground troops don't come, I mean, what are some of the sort of the unknowns on the ground? What are some of the things that could go wrong there?
Well, they're dealing with here all the complications of a history that has been fought over, of a region that's been fought over for most of its history. Now, in northern Iraq particularly, it's bordered by Iran and Syria, which have been warned by the U.S. not to get involved, and more importantly at the moment, perhaps, by Turkey. And part of the reason that those U.S. troops are here is not just to provide any sort of northern offensive, if that's what it turns into, but also to stabilize the region. Now, the Kurds have been very eager to go south from here, to go to Kirkuk and to Mosul. They see Kirkuk, no matter what they say, most people in their hearts see Kirkuk as the eventual capital of an eventual Kurdish state. Now, Kurds say they don't want independence, but still there is always the risk that Turkey will feel that they do and will come moving in. So that's part of the reason that those troops are here, to provide a stabilizing presence. Anderson?
And publicly they're saying they won't go unless the U.S. tells them to?
Pretty well. Now, we have to see if that agreement holds, but it's a very carefully crafted agreement worked out over many months, and essentially what it involves is Kurdish officials agreeing that they won't move without U.S. approval, and what that means is that the U.S. will not approve them moving towards Kirkuk and Mosul, because that would be the first thing that would bring Turkish forces into the picture. So it's basically a very delicate game, a balancing act, and the U.S. just trying to keep both sides contained and relatively happy. Anderson?
Yeah, it certainly is a delicate balance, and I seem to recall the Northern Alliance in Afghanistan saying they weren't going to move on Kabul either, but obviously things did not work out that way. Jane Raff, appreciate it. Thanks for joining us from Northern Iraq. We'll be right back.
Good morning. Before we start, if everyone could move page 15 2 pages up in the deck. And if your page 5 is fuzzy, just pass it down.
Unprofessional documents.
Page 8.
lead to messy meetings.
Just remove it.
But at Staples, you'll get professional quality copying and printing. Our certified associates and 3-step quality process make sure your job is done right.
And this goes up.
Quality copying and printing. Staples, that was easy.
My wallet. My credit card was in it.
You did have a Capital One no hassle card, right?
No.
Relax. Who's gonna find it out here?
Whether your card is lost or stolen, with Capital One, you're not liable for a penny. Check your mailbox for the no-hassle card offer and get the nation's lowest fixed rates.
What's in your wallet?
Checking the latest developments, Baghdad was once again rocked by explosions Sunday night into Monday morning. U.S. Central Command says that coalition forces targeted Iraq's information ministry. Afterward, at least 2 fires could be seen raging in the area. Central Command says it is still assessing the bomb damage. Coalition forces are working with Kurdish fighters in the northern Iraqi town of Sham Shamal. The move may be part of an advance against Iraqi forces. On Sunday, a convoy of British minesweepers headed toward an area where the Iraqis are thought to have planted landmines. U.S. Central Command says that 3 Marines were killed Sunday when their Huey helicopter, like the one seen here, crashed on takeoff. A 4th Marine was injured. The cause is unclear, but CENTCOM says that enemy fire was not to blame. 10 wounded American troops returned to the U.S. on Sunday night. They arrived at Andrews Air Force Base for transport to Bethesda Naval Hospital near Washington. They're going to receive further treatment for their injuries received during the war in Iraq. The group claiming responsibility for a suicide bombing in Israel on Sunday says it was a gift to the Iraqi people. 49 people, including 10 Israeli soldiers, were hurt when a suicide bomber blew himself up at a busy open-air cafe in Netanya. Islamic Jihad has claimed responsibility for that bombing. And the mystery illness sweeping across Asia has prompted a quarantine of a block of apartments in Hong Kong. Health officials say dozens more people at the complex have contracted SARS. That disease has killed at least 54 people worldwide, mostly in Asia. This has indeed here in Kuwait and also in Iraq been a dangerous assignment for a lot of journalists. Some have been killed, some have gone missing. There's one crew from Al Arabiya Network. It's a new network in Dubai that was missing for more than a week. They have now turned back safely here in Kuwait City. They told me their story. Here it is. Reporter Wael Awad and his crew had big goals during this war. They work for a brand new network, Al Arabiya, based in Dubai. They wanted to make their mark.
We wanted to do a good coverage for our channel in the news to make ourselves as a news channel.
So they embedded in the U.S. Army's 101st Airborne Division. They crossed from Kuwait into Iraq when the war began on March 20th.
We interviewed the prisoners of war, we covered American troops, their job, the firing, the soldiers.
But what they really wanted, access to the Iraqi people. So at a certain point you decided you weren't getting the story that you wanted.
We got because what happened with the American, they thought if they keep us with this unit, we could see what they are doing, and they are doing the good job for the people there. So
Awad says the U.S. military told him and his crew that it was safe to go into a town south of Basra without a military escort. But very soon after they entered Zabair, the trouble began.
And we were ambushed and we were shot at.
Just the 3 of you?
Yeah.
Are you in your car at this point?
Yes, you were in the car, and my friends screamed from the back, firing at us, firing at us. I knew they were firing. We were safe because of our equipment was all iron, you know. And we moved to a place, we stopped. Local people, we asked them why they are firing at us. They say, well, you are an American, they thought. I said, well, no, we are not American. We're Arab journalists. We're trying to cover the news.
The Iraqis took the Al Arabiya crew into custody. Meanwhile, back at network headquarters in Dubai, their co-workers feared the worst. Al Arabiya had no idea that the crew was first held at a school in Zabair. They say the Iraqis moved them right before the Americans bombed that school. If you had stayed at that school, you would be dead today, because that school has been bombed.
Yes. We were safe. That moment, we were really safe. I mean, even themselves, they sensed the danger, you know. And I don't know how they moved us to another place.
This is where we need to stop the tape. The crew has asked us not to say where they were held for the next week. They say that during that week, certain Iraqis actually helped save their lives, and they don't want to endanger those people by giving away clues to their identity.
Still, they had to wait until the British moved into town and chaos broke out.
We were not released. In fact, we ran away.
All the way to a British checkpoint and eventually back across the Kuwaiti border. They were greeted by the Kuwaiti information minister and phoned home.
At that moment, we called our parents, and you won't believe that everybody was starting reciting Quran in our places, that we are the 3 dead journalists, the family are in a bad shape. They didn't hear anything from us. And
Your family thought you were dead.
Fainted, everybody fainted. You talk to any person, they think it is from another heaven, somebody is calling them. Who is
Awad, cameraman Talal Masri, and technician Ali Safa all say they hope to return to Iraq one day, but hopefully during a more peaceful time.
And in the meantime, Wael Awad told me he's particularly anxious to get back home. He said he certainly has been through an ordeal with his crew, but his wife is home with their 3 daughters and brand new infant son. And he said through what she's been through with all the worrying and home with 4 kids by herself, he thinks that she got Anderson the tougher end of that deal. So he's on the next plane back to Delhi.
Yeah, God, understandably. But there's none of them are going to go back into the war zone at this point.
You know, they said they need at least 2 months, I think, both for things perhaps to calm down a little bit in Iraq, but also for them to kind of get a hold on what they went through. But they did say that one thing that they would like to do, especially the reporter Awad, he would like to go back to that area where he was held captive and do perhaps a documentary on the Iraqi people that did help them, because he said he leaves actually with warm feelings for those Iraqi people.
Fascinating story. Darren Kagan, thanks very much for that. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you in a little bit. When we come back, how the rest of the world is watching this story.
You know, hon, you can always stay with Fran and Carl. Ah, you think I'm a hotel?
Maybe we should just get a room when we get into town. We're booked. Why don't we call you Brother Jeff? He's always traveling.
And always on short notice.
The best deals? It's a no-brainer. Hotels.com.
Hotels.com.
Save on thousands of hotels worldwide.
Yes!
Hotels.com. The best prices at the best places, guaranteed.
The war in Iraq continues, and no one takes you closer than CNN, live throughout the day. Stay with CNN, the most trusted name in news.
The Predators' regular season fantastic finale is April 1st at 7 p.m. when the Predators take on the Mighty Ducks. All fans in attendance will receive a t-shirt courtesy of Kroger, plus great prizes will be given away throughout the game. Call 770-BUCK today for tickets.
One more hot flash, I'll scream.
Try NuPhase. NuPhase is the all-natural, drug-free dietary supplement that's guaranteed for menopausal support. And NuPhase has more of the plant estrogens that have been shown to reduce hot flashes. NuPhase. Get more out of life.
Cholesterol concerns me, so this got my attention.
Clinical studies have shown that garlic can help maintain normal cholesterol levels, and Garlic is a world leader in garlic potency. Take 1 tablet of Garlic per day or up to 6 of some other brands. Garlic, cholesterol's natural enemy.
CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Well, the polls tell us that most Americans support their government's effort to oust the regime of Saddam Hussein. The polls also tell us, as do newscasts from other parts, that it isn't the case elsewhere. CNN's Bruce Burkhardt has been keeping an eye on how the war is being covered elsewhere.
In Russia, where the reporter tells us, opponents of the coalition say that 2 Apache helicopters were shot down today, one over Basra, the other over central Iraq. U.S. Central Command denies that.
They are thrusting
and in Canada
towards Baghdad. They are like a boa snake. Now, its length is more than 500 kilometers, and we are going to cut the snake in pieces.
In China,
Iraq will sue U.S. President George W. Bush and British Prime Minister Tony Blair as they are war criminals.
and on the Arab networks, whose war coverage includes both reports from its embedded reporters, along with news from the other side, an interview with the Iraqi commander in Basra. On TVs around the world, the war story is being told in he said, she said fashion. Statements from Iraqi officials that are treated by U.S. media with some degree of skepticism are presented elsewhere with the same weight as U.S. claims. In this English language newscast from China, a press conference with the Iraqi information minister.
This kind of cheap propaganda
followed by a briefing from U.S. Central Command.
He claims irregular terror groups are still forcing young Iraqi men to fight.
And Al Jazeera, whose reputation as a news organization grew following 9/11, is also benefiting from this conflict. Many countries' news media rely on Al Jazeera footage. Here, a Chinese public affairs program with a guest from Al Jazeera and a compliment from the host.
And above all, for the ability to get two sides of the same story, despite challenges and pressures from its neighboring countries and from America in particular.
A war with a worldwide audience, and finding the truth of this war might depend upon where you're watching it. Bruce Burkhardt, CNN, Atlanta.
Well, there was an especially large anti-war rally today in Indonesia, which is no stranger as a country to violence and terrorism and factional fighting. CNN's Atika Schubert is in Jakarta. Atika, how did the day go?
Well, Anderson, we've had daily protests here in Indonesia since the war began, but on Sunday, definitely the largest protest we've seen in Indonesia since the war began. Tens of thousands marching through the main streets of Jakarta straight to the U.S. Embassy and demanding an immediate end to the war. Now, alongside those demonstrators, hundreds of riot police with anti-riot gear, particularly around the U.S. Embassy, which, as you can see, has very tight security, ringed and barbed wire. But it has to be said, the protest yesterday was peaceful, was very peaceful. In fact, it had an almost festive feel to it, with singing and dancing. There were families bringing their children with them as though on a Sunday outing. Now, having said that, there is increasingly an angry anti-American sentiment in these demonstrations. We saw one banner that said, "People of the USA, beware." We saw the burning of an American flag, as well as an effigy of U.S. President George W. Bush. Now, these demonstrations have been spearheaded largely by Muslim political groups here. There were other groups, other religious organizations that also joined in, but largely it's these Muslim groups. And this is really what observers are looking at, how Indonesia, as the country that has the world's largest Muslim population, will react to the war in Iraq, especially if it's a prolonged war. Anderson?
Atika, it's interesting. I'd like to know a little bit more about the group sponsoring it. I mean, is it coming from mosques? Is it groups just linked to different mosques? Because I notice a lot of the signs are in English. Certainly, there seems a high level of coordination given all the banners and there are a lot of green flags. They all seem the same color, that sort of thing.
You're right. There's a lot of coordination. In fact, this demonstration in particular was in the planning for over a week. These have been organized really by Muslim political parties that obviously certainly have their own agenda. But it is clear that there is mass support for these demonstrations. A lot of these demonstrators came of their own volition. Some of them weren't even organizers, just decided to join in the protest. It's very clear that in Indonesia, virtually everybody here is against the war in Iraq. The government has come out very firmly against the war in Iraq. Polls certainly show that the majority of people are against the war. The real question for Indonesia is whether it considers the war in Iraq a political issue or a religious issue, and this is going to be very key for how the masses will react here in Indonesia.
Just so you know, Atika, we have some video from Al Jazeera, which also obviously covered this demonstration, so we're just going to show that, some of their coverage that appeared on Al Jazeera. Any sense of how this may impact on U.S. relations with Indonesia, with any sort of cooperation that had been planned?
Well, so far, relations remain good between the U.S. and Indonesia, but obviously it is putting a bit of strain. Indonesia, again, the government has made it very clear it does not support the war, that it wants an immediate end to the war. But really, what it puts a difficult position for the moderate Muslims here in Indonesia. The majority of Muslims in Indonesia are moderate, but there is this radical fringe, and that radical fringe has been threatening American interests. At one point threatening to sweep for Americans and other foreigners here. They're also threatening to send so-called jihad or holy war warriors to defend Iraq. And that's really where the concern for the relationship between the U.S. and Indonesia is how loud, how vocal, and how strong that radical fringe will get.
All right.
Anderson?
Atika Schubert, live in Jakarta, Indonesia. Thanks very much. Tonight, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to examine the propaganda war at home.
For more on the war in Iraq, log on to CNN.com. Get reports from the front lines.
Huge explosions.
And all the facts and features you need to track the war. Plus, sign up for breaking news alerts and be the first to know. Log on and stay informed at CNN.com.
The surprise of the Oscars is now the movie phenomenon that everyone is talking about.
It's how one man's love of music helps him survive.
Winner of the Academy Award for Best Screenplay, Best Director Roman Polanski, and Best Actor Adrian Brody.
One man's struggle and survival of the human spirit.
It's a magnificent, unforgettable masterpiece that reawakens our emotions. The Pianist is the best picture of the year. The Pianist, rated R, now playing.
You need to manage your business anytime, anywhere. Gateway's new business notebooks featuring Intel Centrino mobile technology help you stay productive with wireless connectivity. Plus the freedom of having up to 8 hours of battery life. Now get 0% business financing for 24 months when you purchase Gateway 450 E-Series business notebooks. Gateway, business, government, education. Gateway 450 notebooks feature Intel Centrino mobile technology.
Well, it may sound a bit strange to hear that a TV station is considered a key target of the U.S. military, but the Pentagon knows that one of Iraq's most powerful weapons is its propaganda machine, and the U.S. has a very long history in this kind of battle, the battle of ideas, the battle of imagery. Here's Jeff Greenfield.
And we're going to show you a couple of clips here. The first one is an Iraqi woman.
This wasn't combat footage the Pentagon was showing on Saturday.
And they also start using electrical shock on my fingertips.
But video clips illustrating the horrors of life under Saddam Hussein, including the aftermath of a chemical weapons attack on the town of Halabja in 1988. But in another sense, it was combat footage in the war of ideas, a war that has often been as critical as any military engagement.
And so a nation which has ever held life cheap prepares to practice once again its ancient arts of death.
All through the Second World War, the Office of War Information enlisted filmmakers like Frank Capra, he made Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, to explain the war to America's military.
We're here to make it clear to the Japanese that their time has now come to make sense. Modern, civilized sense.
For their part, Axis powers also tried to talk to American GIs via the radio with American-born voices. The Japanese had Tokyo Rose. Throughout much of the Cold War, the Central Intelligence Agency subsidized publications, as well as European political parties and student and youth groups, to get the anti-communist message out. And when the war turned hot in Vietnam, the North Vietnamese welcomed American anti-war leaders to visit. And in 1966, New York Times man Harrison Salisbury got a visa, and his stories about civilian casualties in the North stirred up a huge controversy. After September 11th, with much attention focused on anti-American sentiments in the Muslim world, advertising executive Charlotte Beers was recruited by the government to develop a public relations campaign. It featured American Muslims talking about their lives in the United States.
I wear a hijab in the classroom where I teach. I have never had any child that thought it was weird or anything like that.
So why does this battle for hearts and minds matter? Well, think for a minute. If much of the Arab world learns about this war from media where the dominant story is civilian casualties and American might, if the message of liberation is heard dimly or not at all, then it is highly possible that the United States can indeed win the battle and lose the war. Jeff Greenfield, CNN, New York.
We have heard, of course, over the last 10 days or so, a lot from our own embedded correspondents, from many correspondents embedded with coalition forces, correspondents from the United Kingdom, correspondents from the United States. We have not heard so much from the Arab embedded correspondents. And yes, there are Arab embedded correspondents from Al Jazeera, Al Arabiya, among others. So we wanted to play one of their reports. This is a report from an embedded correspondent from the Al Arabiya network, a Saudi network. It was broadcast just a short time ago. Let's listen.
The American forces in northern Iraq have become obvious. They are stationed everywhere preparing for the opening of the north. Between yesterday and today, another well-equipped military group arrived at Hariri Airport. The generals here insist that these forces, which are over 3,000 soldiers, cannot open a new front for now. However, working together with the Kurdish forces to allow these forces in the Iraq-Kurdish land assures that this war in Iraq will take a different route in the next few days. The American soldiers are stationed here near Hariri Airport and other places in the Iraq-Kurdish land. They are working together with democratic Kurdish forces. This provides their intention of starting their attack from here, which is the Northern Front. Shara Al-Zubari, Al Arabiya, Northern Iraq.
Speaking of Arab networks, we want to show you a live picture from Al Jazeera right now. It's a picture in Mosul where there apparently has just recently, I'm not sure exactly how recently, but I'm told a short time ago, been some sort of an airstrike there. You see a plume of smoke on the horizon. We've become so used to images like that, the plume of smoke wafting on the horizon. This a live shot from Al Jazeera in northern Iraq, Mosul, which is, of course, a target of great interest to coalition forces. We're going to go now to Miles O'Brien, because what we want to be looking is that, what we want to look at is the notion that what goes up must come down. That is what, of course, the Pentagon says may have happened the other day. Anti-aircraft artillery fired by the Iraqis missed its target and fell back to earth onto a crowded market square in Baghdad. Truth is, we do not know. We do not know that American flyers We do not know that. We do know, however, that American flyers are pretty adept at avoiding that fire from the ground. More on that from Miles O'Brien.
All right, we're going to talk a little bit about AAA, and we're not talking about a road service. We're talking about anti-aircraft artillery, something you've seen a lot about, but perhaps need a little more understanding of. I know I did. Major General Don Shepard is our guide through all of this. He's retired with the U.S. Air Force and has flown through the flak that is the end result of this AAA, and can tell us a little bit about these tracer rounds that we've seen and what's really going on in the sky.
Yeah, we're going to show AAA, or anti-aircraft artillery, defending a missile site, Miles, and it's going to be very interesting and very instructive. All we've seen on TV is the nighttime shots of the tracer rounds, the orange rounds going up in the sky. That's a tracer round. Between every 2 tracer rounds are 6 other bullets, and then each bullet explodes in the air at the end of that.
For this animation, we've depicted Baghdad. Go ahead and
this is an orange range. Anytime you're inside of that, the missile site can acquire you on his radar. On the red, it can lock onto you. And now the AAA, or anti-aircraft artillery, is in the red ring down here, and the guns can shoot at you. The missile is in the center. The guns are around the side. Here is a AAA piece. A gun dish ZSU-23 radar has a radar locking onto the airplane to direct his fire, and all of the other guns will begin to fire also. Every round he fires, there's about 6 rounds between tracers. Those go up in the sky and they blow up in what we call flak. You can see him shooting at the airplane. Everybody's shooting. The flak bursts going off around the airplane. You can feel these rounds passing close to your airplane, and you can also smell the cordite from the blast when they go off, when you're really ringed by AAA.
I suppose it is not until that moment that you are christened a full fighter pilot, right?
That's right. This gets your attention. And this is an F-18 from the Navy. You can see the flak going off around him. And now the missile site is also going to lock onto him. Luckily, all this AAA is missing. This is an SA-2 SAM surface-to-air missile. The radar locks on. The missile fires. The pilot gets an indication in his cockpit that the missile has fired. He's going to make a hard turn to outturn the missile. He's going to dump chaff at the same time, and the missile misses and blows up. You can also feel those missiles blow up if they come close enough, Miles.
All that requires an integrated system to kind of respond in that way. Do we know if the system in Baghdad and Iraq, for that matter, if it's still operating that way?
The system has been degraded. They're hitting the fixed missile site, all of the radar sites that they can find. The real threat there to low-flying airplane is the AAA anti-aircraft guns and any mobile missiles that remain, which the coalition has not started to hit yet.
Major General Don Shepard, thanks very much. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Miles. When we come back, Candy Crowley is going to bring us a story about memories of war.
Did you know that tomatoes contain a remarkable nutrient called lycopene? Emerging science suggests that lycopene is one of the ingredients in tomatoes that may help reduce the risk of heart disease. And now, lycopene is in Centrum, or if you're over 50, Centrum Silver. Lycopene. Another reason Centrum may do more for your health. New Centrum and Centrum Silver, now more complete with lycopene.
This is crabgrass. I don't want to see crabgrass in my lawn.
My wife actually hates crabgrass.
Nobody would want this in their lawn. We put down Scott's turf builder with Holtz in the early spring.
That's the only thing I ever use. Scott's puts this protective barrier over the lawn.
And it stops the crabgrass from germinating.
See how nice and thick that is?
Feels like the carpet inside my house.
Well, I've used the cheap brands, and it's like anything else. You get what you pay for.
Steve doesn't have any crabgrass, which makes him a good human being, basically. Turf builder with Holtz.
The best defense against crabgrass.
Well, it seems to us there are two kinds of war stories, those that can be told and those that simply cannot. This is about the second kind. Here's CNN's Candy Crowley.
9/11. Senator Daniel Inouye will be 79 this year. He was 18 when he went to war, one of the greatest generation. Sometimes at night, he sees the faces of the Germans he killed.
His jacket. He couldn't speak English. He reached under his jacket and I thought to myself, oh, here he's going for a gun. I had no choice. His hand flew out. In his hands were photographs of his wife and kids.
It's been 50 years since the Korean War. 2 generations have read about it in history class. Congressman Charlie Rangel still sees it in his head. That first day he set foot on the Korean peninsula.
We only saw strange-looking people dead for days, with animals dead. And it was as though you were walking through a cemetery where they had forgotten to bury the people.
3 decades have passed since the war in Vietnam. Senator Chuck Hagel still hears it.
The thing that, among other things, that always sticks with me is the whistle of bullets stripping jungles. When a machine gun opens up or an automatic weapon opens up in a jungle where there's great foliage, the whistle sounds and not just the rat-tat-tat from a gun, but what those bullets do to strip a jungle.
It's strange, the things they took from battle and carried 30, 40, 50 years into the future. What lingers for one of the most highly decorated pilots of Vietnam, the war's first ace, is a feeling of being helpless.
I remember watching an airplane, a forward air controller that was hit, and I saw his airplane on fire, and you just say, get out of the airplane, get out of the airplane. It's like watching maybe a baby carriage going across a highway with traffic, and you know you can't get there in time.
Decorated for courage under fire, Homeland Security Secretary Tom Ridge still sees the poetry of nighttime over Vietnam.
Nights, if you had time to think about them and looked up at the stars, were beautiful. They're beautiful because there's no artificial illumination. You're out at absolutely the middle of nowhere. And so on a moonlit night, it's almost like dusk or dawn. That's how bright it is. And it's very quiet, sometimes eerily quiet.
Their stories, when you read them, are so different when they tell them. Charlie Rangel, his medal attests, led 40 men out from behind enemy lines in Korea.
While I had a compass and got a hold of a map, I didn't have the slightest idea where I was going. We were surrounded. And I would imagine that there were a lot of heroes that just went the wrong way. The wrong way.
It's the one thing they all carried into the decades past war, an appreciation not just of life, but of the randomness of death.
Just walk by the wall. You know, good soldiers who did everything they were trained to do well, but they didn't come home.
Candy Crowley, CNN, Washington.
We're going to take a short break and take you to the latest on the battlefield. We'll be right back.
All right, we're ready.
Stop obsessing. Quick-Step is the laminate floor designed to take the wear and tear of everyday life. Quick-Step, floors that stand up.
Introducing New America Online 8.0. With hundreds of new features, there's never been a better time to try it.
America Online has so much more.
You've got mail.
With 8.0, I can customize my email.
You can pick what emails you want to see first in your mailbox.
With AOL's new parental controls, I can set up for each one of my children.
I can control when and how long they stay online.
Call now and get 1,025 free hours for 45 days and hundreds of new features.
Searching is quick and easy.
Now AOL searches are faster than ever with Google.
I can sign up to AOL from home or on the road.
There are more access numbers than ever.
The customer service is free and it's 24 hours a day.
They're friendly, they're responsive.
Call 1-800-901-9795 now and get started right over the phone with 1,025 free hours for 45 days. There's no commitment and you don't even need a credit card.
It's an AOL like you've never seen before.
New AOL 8.0 with hundreds of new features. There's never been a better time to try it.
I'm Darren Kagan, live in Kuwait City with a look at the headlines at this hour. The U.S. Central Command in Qatar today released details of fighting between the 82nd Airborne and Iraqis loyal to President Saddam Hussein. They clashed near the southern Iraq cities of Najaf and Samawa along the Euphrates. The result, CENTCOM says, about 100 dead Iraqis. We're going to bring you more details on that battle as we get them. To the north, in the capital, an airstrike unprecedented in military history. The U.S. military says it's the first time that multiple long-range fighter jets targeted the same location at the same time. And it was a familiar target, Iraq's information ministry, just yards away from a Baghdad shopping center. America's war of words with Iraq's neighbor Syria continued to heat up over the weekend. Syrian officials said the nation has an interest in the expulsion of Americans from Iraq. Although the Bush administration has argued that Iraq is a threat to its neighbors, for the second time in 3 days, a member of the cabinet used strong language to warn Syria against helping Iraq.
Syria also now faces a critical choice. Syria can continue direct support for terrorist groups in the dying regime of Saddam Hussein, or it can embark on a different and more hopeful course. Either way, Syria bears the responsibility for its choices and for the consequences.
In other news, an early test of a drug for Parkinson's disease seems to show some promise. More than 1 million Americans suffer from Parkinson's. The online journal Nature Medicine is reporting today that 5 patients received a drug called GDNF, and they reported improved mobility and reduced tremors. Further tests are planned on that drug. For now, though, back to CNN's continuing coverage of the war in Iraq. Anderson Cooper handling that for us tonight. Anderson, hello from Kuwait.
Darren, thanks very much. Nice to see you. We know that many of you may just be joining our coverage for the day, so here's a look at the big developments in the war you may have missed. Or daytime helicopter assaults on Iraqi positions in the central part of the country, coalition air power was dominant again on day 12 of the war.